Welcome back to Grim Advice with Gretta Myers. You've entered the Grimoire with 2 M's. Let's turn the pages together. Alright, what do we got today? Bearskin. I can't even tell you at this point because the Grimm brothers are so inconsistent with title names if there's an actual bear in it or not. So let's go. Let's figure it out. So without further ado, Bearskin. There was once a young fellow who enlisted as a soldier, conducted himself bravely, and was always the foremost when it rained bullets. So long as the war lasted, all went well, but when peace was made, he received his dismissal, and the captain said he might go home where he liked. His parents were dead, he no longer had a home, so he went to his brothers and begged them to take him in and keep him until the war broke out again. The brothers, however, were hard-hearted and said, "What can we do with you? You are of no use to us, and go and make a living for yourself." The soldier had nothing left but his gun. He took that on his shoulder and went forth into the world. He came to a wide heath on which nothing was to be seen but a circle of trees. Under these he sat sorrowfully down and began to think over his fate. "I have no money," thought he. "I have learned no trade but that of fighting, and now that they have made peace, they don't want me any longer. So I see beforehand that I shall have to starve." All at once he heard a rustling, and when he looked round, a strange man stood before him, who wore a green coat and looked right stately, but had a hideous cloven foot. "I know already what you are in need of," said the man. "Gold and possessions you shall have, as much as you can make away with. Do what you will, but first I must know if you are fearless, that I may not bestow my money in vain." "A soldier and fear, how can those two things go together?" he answered. "You can put me to the proof." "Very well then," answered the man. "Look behind you." The soldier turned round and saw a large bear which came growling towards him. "Oho!" cried the soldier. "I will tickle your nose for you, so that you shall soon lose your fancy for growling." And he aimed at the bear and shot it through the muzzle. It fell down and never stirred again. "I see quite well," said the stranger, "that you are not wanting in courage, but there is still another condition which you will have to fulfill." "If it does not endanger my salvation," replied the soldier, who knew very well who was standing by him. "If it does, I'll have nothing to do with it." "You will look to that for yourself," answered Greencoat. "You shall, for the next 7 years, neither wash yourself, nor comb your beard, nor your hair, nor cut your nails, nor say one paternoster. I will give you a coat and a cloak, which during this time you must wear. If you die during these 7 years, you are mine. If you remain alive, you are free and rich to boot for all the rest of your life." The soldier thought of the great extremity in which he now found himself, and as he so often had gone to meet death, he resolved to risk it now also, and agreed to the terms. The devil took off his green coat, gave it to the soldier, and said, "If you have this coat on your back and put your hand into the pocket, you will always find it full of money." Then he pulled the skin off the bear and said, "This shall be your cloak, and your bed also, for on this you shall sleep, and in no other bed shall you lie, and because of this apparel you shall be called Bearskin." After this the devil vanished. The soldier put the coat on and felt at once in the pocket and found that the thing was really true. Then he put on the bearskin and went forth into the world and enjoyed himself, refraining from nothing that did him good and his money harm. During the first year his appearance was passable, but during the second he began to look like a monster. His hair covered nearly the whole of his face. His beard was like a piece of coarse felt. His fingers had claws, and his face was so covered with dirt that if grass had been sown on it, it would have grown. Whoever saw him ran away, but as he always gave the poor money to pray that he might not die during the 7 years, and as he paid well for everything, he still always found shelter. In the 4th year he entered an inn where the landlord would not receive him, and would not even let him have a place in the stable, because he was so afraid that the horses would be scared. But as Bearskin thrust his hand into his pocket and pulled out a handful of ducats, the host let himself be persuaded and gave him a room in an outhouse. Bearskin was, however, obliged to promise not to let himself be seen, lest the inn should get a bad name. As Bearskin was sitting alone in the evening and wishing from the bottom of his heart that the 7 years were over, he heard a loud lamenting in a neighboring room. He had a compassionate heart, so he opened the door, saw an old man weeping bitterly, wringing his hands. Bearskin went nearer, but the man sprang to his feet and tried to escape from him. At last, when the man perceived that the bearskin's voice was human, He let himself be prevailed on, and by kind words Bearskin succeeded so far that the old man revealed the cause of his grief. His property dwindled away by degrees. He and his daughters would have to starve, and he was so poor that he could not pay the innkeeper and was to be put in prison. "If that is your only trouble," said Bearskin, "I have plenty of money." He had the innkeeper brought there, paid him, and put a purse full of gold into the old man's pocket besides. When the old man saw himself set free from all his troubles, he did not know how to be grateful enough. "Come with me," said he to Bearskin. "My daughters are all miracles of beauty. Choose one of them for yourself as a wife. When she hears what you have done for me, she will not refuse you. You do in truth look a little strange, but she will soon put you to rights again." This pleased Bearskin well, and he went. When the eldest saw him, she was so terribly alarmed at his face that she screamed and ran away. The second stood still and looked at him from head to foot. But then she said, "How can I accept a husband who no longer has a human form? The shaven bear that once was here and passed himself off for a man pleased me far better, for at any rate it wore a hussar's dress and white gloves. If it were nothing but ugliness, I might get used to that." And the youngest, however, said, "Dear father, that must be a good man to have helped you out of your trouble, so if you have promised him a bride for doing it, your promise must be kept." It was a pity that Bearskin's face was covered with dirt and with hair, for if not they might have seen how delighted he was when he heard these words. He took a ring from his finger, broke it in two, and gave her one half, and the other he kept for himself. He wrote his name, however, on her half, and hers on his, and begged her to keep her peace carefully, and then he took his leave and said, "I must still wander about for 3 years. And if I do not return then, you are free, for I shall be dead. But pray to God to preserve my life." The poor betrothed bride dressed herself entirely in black, and when she thought of her future bridegroom, tears came into her eyes. Nothing but contempt and mockery fell to her lot from her sisters. "Take care," said the eldest. "If you give him your hand, he will strike his claws into it." "Beware," said the second. "Bears like sweet things, and if he takes a fancy to you, he will eat you up." "He must always do as he likes," began the elder again, "or else he will growl," and the second continued, "But the wedding will be a merry one, for bears dance well." The bride was silent, and did not let them vex her. Bearskin, however, traveled about the world from one place to another, did good where he was able, and gave generously to the poor that they might pray for him. At length, as the last day of the 7 years dawned, he went once more out on to the heath, and seated himself beneath the circle of trees. It was not long before the wind whistled, and the devil stood before him, and looked angrily at him. Then he threw Bearskin his old coat, and asked for his own green one back. "We have not got so far as that yet," answered Bearskin. "You must first make me clean." Whether the devil liked it or not, he was forced to fetch water, and wash Bearskin, comb his hair, and cut his nails. After this he looked like a brave soldier, and was much handsomer than he had ever been before. When the devil had gone away, Bearskin was quite light-hearted. He went into the town, and put on a magnificent velvet coat, seated himself in a carriage drawn by 4 white horses, and drove to his bride's house. No one recognized him. The father took him for a distinguished general, and led him into the room where his daughters were sitting. He was forced to place himself between the 2 eldest. They helped him to wine, gave him the best pieces of meat, and thought that in all the world they had never seen a handsomer man. The bride, however, sat opposite to him in her black dress, and never raised her eyes, nor spoke a word. When at length he asked the father if he would give one of his daughters to wed, the 2 eldest jumped up and ran into their bedrooms to put on splendid dresses, for each of them fancied she was the chosen one. The stranger, as soon as he was alone with his bride, brought out his half of the ring, and threw it in a glass of wine, which he reached across the table to her. She took the wine, but when she had drunk it, she found the half-ring lying at the bottom. Her heart began to beat. She got the other half, which she wore on a ribbon round her neck, joined them, and saw that the 2 pieces fitted exactly together. Then said he, "I am your betrothed bridegroom, whom you saw as Bearskin, but through God's grace I have again received my human form, and have once more become clean." He went up to her, embraced her, and gave her a kiss. In the meantime, the 2 sisters came back in full dress, and when they saw that the handsome man had fallen to the share of the youngest, and heard that he was Bearskin, they ran out, full of anger and rage. One of them drowned herself in the well, the other hanged herself on a tree. In the evening, someone knocked at the door, and when the bridegroom opened, it was the devil in his green coat who said, "You see, I have now got 2 souls in the place of your own." Ooh. Ooh, this one tugged on my heartstrings. Okay, first off, let me give a little background as far as I'm aware. A paternoster, if I were to guess, would just be a prayer, maybe a specific type of prayer. I'm not 100% sure, but that's I assume from the rest of the story and the context clues that that's what that was. However, I can tell you that indeed, cloven feet were seen to be signs of the devil in later this era Christianity. The devil would appear with cloven foot. And I think, green coat just looking like this, and that was a form of the devil. And so when it says he knew who was standing there, he's like, yeah, I know it's you. It's the devil. So there's a little background knowledge as far as I'm aware. I don't know everything. Alright. He says, a soldier in fear, how can those things go together? And to an extent, on the one hand, we have this idea that, soldiers are human and they can be afraid. However, on the other hand, sometimes circumstances don't allow for that. Like, fear is something that can be conditioned out of a person under such horrible circumstances such as war or other trauma. Fear becomes very different. However, on the other hand, there's now a third hand. There's also the option to say, I see that I can be afraid. I also see that I can learn to be numb. And I say, no, I choose to take courage. Ooh. Ooh. So there's the 3 hands on there. That's the 3 perspectives I had on that line. Okay. Okay. First off, before we get into the, I always have the little, not always, but a lot of times I have this little thing that before we get to my wrap-up point, I want to touch on physical appearance. Just touch briefly on it, because it is a heavy, touchy subject, for me at least. I know for a lot of people. However, really? Okay. It's a hard thing. Because who doesn't appreciate a well-looking person? First off, no matter what you look like, no matter how ugly you think you are, you deserve to take care of yourself. So shower, brush your teeth, eat, just eat. Even if you can't eat a lot, or make sure you're eating something and just not too much. Drink water, take care of yourself. Make sure you look. You don't have to try your best all the time. I don't care if you're at home chilling in sweatpants, because I too would be doing that if I had that option. But, take at least the very minimal effort when it comes to hygiene. I'm not judging you. I am not the person to judge. I struggle wanting to do that, because it's hard to want to get out of bed and do anything sometimes, and so just do what you can. I'm going to leave it at that. Do what you're able to in that day and take it as a win. But back to physical appearance. We all appreciate a well-looking person. I think we're just kind of at this point conditioned by society to appreciate handsome people. I mean, advertisements, hello, they sell people using... They do not sell people. They sell products using beautiful people. So we're all kind of just conditioned that that is something we're supposed to like and appreciate. And I could say a whole bunch of cliches like looks fade, sarcasm never does, or, you know, all those phrases about you don't put too much weight in a relationship on looks. I mean, to put as much as, is drastically important for you. Like, if for whatever reason you cannot date a person with blue eyes, for, you know, maybe it's a trauma reason, and you're not okay with that, then that's understandable. But really, honestly, when you look past the person, wouldn't you rather have... when it comes to food, wouldn't you rather have something that tastes great but looks bad than something that looks great but is nasty? Focus on personality, that's all I'm saying. Maybe it's just my sort of cry for help because I am not a very physically attractive person. In any respect. I know that. I'm not about to go become a model or anything. But I do my best to take care of myself, and that's what matters. And I fight for my own self-confidence every day. I see the fear, and I see the numb, and I choose courage. Woo! Alright. But yeah, focus on personality, not looks. Alright, lastly, I'm going to tie this back into mental health, because I like doing that, because it is something that means a lot to me, and something that's very close to home for me. Okay. So we have... this person, right, who does not look great, or just does not have this appearance. We'll go with appearance, that's a good word. Appearance of a good person. Even though all the time, he's like, please, here's money for the poor, all the time. Fixing that old man's life, just out of the goodness of his heart, just really trying to help those around him. All the time. And, we know he's physically strong. He killed a bear. And he chose courage. All these things. I'm gonna tie it into this idea of a diagnosis. Or just generally some sort of mental or chronic illness that looks and sounds scary, and the reputation kind of precedes itself. And he's struggling with this right now. As we all do, we struggle from time to time. And it really, honestly, it can be really hard. And it can scare a lot of people away. Well-meaning people, good people, even people who love you even, it can scare away. This girl was like, he seems like a great guy. He seems like a great guy. But then he got scared away himself. He was like, I cannot stay here. I still have 3 years. So he goes away for the 3 years and comes back and betters himself. Is he a changed man? Absolutely. He danced with the devil and he won. And bears dance great. I loved their... Like, I hated it because it hurt me because they were being mean. But it was really... Their little quips about the bears and stuff were really funny. I hate to admit it, but they were pretty funny. And then he comes back, and the two girls are just absolutely eager. They're like, heck yeah, beautiful guy, normal looking guy. It's like, and I'll totally marry him, and it'll be great, right? And the daughter's just kind of like, yep, I'm waiting for my monster to come back. We don't know how she thought, but she seemed to really just think he was a sweet guy, just kind of cursed. And then he's like, hey, it's me, by the way, I'm better now. And she just, kind of absolutely loses it, because heck yeah! That's awesome. And then the two girls kill themselves, and holy crap. And the devil's like, thanks, man. Okay. That one was sketchy. So I think what I want to say is there are real people, and then there are people who fake it. Or maybe not fake it. Their reactions to him were real in both senses of the word, but they wouldn't take you at your worst. Why would you give them your best? Whew. We're hitting some tough stuff tonight, right? Oh, goodness. If that person genuinely, honestly won't take you at your worst, or doesn't warm up to it, like the old man was like, you're scary looking, but then he's like, you look strange, but you're a good guy, so we're gonna do this. I guess there's just things about people that tend to be scary, like you hear they're depressed, or anxious, or they have anxiety, or they have such and such chronic illness, like at the worst, cancer. And all these, I can name many mental illnesses, and just, I think if the label precedes itself and you're like, oh, I have X, then that can scare a lot of people off. Because they see this label, and that's your new appearance to them. So no matter how sweet and how good you are, to some people it doesn't matter because you have X. You are not X, but you have X. But other people, the label never mattered. It was who you are behind that. So, find you some people like that. It's kind of my wrap up for today. Alright, my gremlins. Thank you for joining us for another happily ever after, or not so happily ever after. That's up for you to decide, and what you decide is valid. Today was hard, and you're valid. You are. Either way, this is the end for this episode, so tune in later and we can learn more and turn new pages together.